The rain poured relentlessly against the tall windows of the Ashton estate, a mansion that sat like a crown atop the hills outside New York City. Inside, the air was colder than the storm. Damon Ashton, one of the wealthiest men in America, paced across the marble floor of his study. His phone buzzed endlessly with stock alerts and boardroom updates, but tonight his attention wasn't on the markets. It was on the maid who stood trembling by the door, her hands clasped tightly together, eyes downcast. Her name was Evelyn. To the rest of the staff, she was just another cleaner, a quiet woman in her 60s who rarely spoke of her past. To Damon, she was an inconvenience, a reminder of a world far removed from private jets and glass towers. She had been late again. Dinner had not been prepared the way he liked, and in his world, perfection was non-negotiable. "Pack your things," Damon snapped, his voice sharp as a whip. "You're done here." Evelyn flinched. She opened her mouth, perhaps to apologize, but nothing came out. Her throat tightened as she looked at him, her eyes glistening, holding something more than fear, something like heartbreak. For a moment, Damon noticed it. But he brushed it away, convinced he was simply dealing with another careless employee. "I don't tolerate incompetence in my house," he continued. "You've had chances, and you've wasted them. I want you out by morning." The storm outside cracked with thunder, almost echoing the cruelty in his words. Evelyn gave a small nod, swallowed hard, and quietly left the study. Damon poured himself a drink, convincing himself he had done what was necessary. Yet a strange heaviness lingered in the room, something he couldn't quite name. Upstairs, Evelyn packed her worn suitcase. Each item she folded carried decades of quiet sacrifice. She had come to this house not for money, but for something else entirely, something Damon would never have believed. She paused, staring at a small, faded photograph tucked deep into her bag. In it was a boy of 6, with dark curls and curious eyes, smiling wide as though the world belonged to him. Her son. Her only child. The one she lost to a system that told her she wasn't good enough to raise him. That boy was now Damon Ashton. Evelyn pressed the photo to her lips, whispering words no one would hear. She had cleaned his home for months, watching him from the shadows, trying to gather the courage to tell him the truth. But every time, fear stopped her. Would he hate her? Would he think she abandoned him? Now, she would never have the chance. Damon barely slept that night. Something about Evelyn's face haunted him. He told himself it was guilt for being harsh, but guilt was an emotion he rarely entertained. Yet, as the rain eased into morning light, he found himself standing at the top of the staircase, listening. He heard the sound of wheels rolling across marble as Evelyn carried her suitcase toward the front door. Something in him shifted. "Wait," he called, his voice carrying through the silence. Evelyn froze. Slowly, she turned. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, Damon saw the depth of sorrow there. "Why do you look at me like that?" he asked, his tone less harsh now, tinged with curiosity. She hesitated. Her lips trembled. And then, unable to hold it in any longer, she whispered, "Because you're my son." The words hit him like lightning. Damon laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "What kind of manipulation is this? Do you think I'm naive? My mother died years ago." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. She reached into her bag and pulled out the faded photograph, her hands trembling as she held it out. Damon's breath caught as he recognized the image. It was him. The same smile, the same scar on his chin from when he fell off his bike at 6. His glass slipped from his hand, shattering against the marble. "I never left you," Evelyn said, her voice breaking. "They told me I wasn't fit, that I couldn't provide. They took you away, gave you to a family with means. I tried to fight, but I was young, alone, and poor. I searched for you every year, every birthday, praying to see your face again. When I finally found out who you had become, I just wanted to be near you. Even if it meant scrubbing your floors." The room spun around Damon. He felt like the ground beneath him had crumbled. All the years he believed his mother was gone, all the anger he buried about being abandoned, it shattered in that single moment. And standing before him was the woman who carried him into this world, the woman he had just cast out like she was nothing. "I don't believe you," Damon muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. Evelyn's hands shook as she pulled up her sleeve. On her arm was a small birthmark, a crescent shape he remembered from his childhood, pressed against his cheek when she hugged him. Memories surged. Her lullabies, her laughter, the warmth of her embrace. Memories he thought were dreams. "It's you," he whispered. His chest tightened as he realized the truth. Evelyn's tears streamed freely now. "Yes, Damon. It's me. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I'm sorry you had to grow up without me. I thought you would hate me if you knew." Silence fell, thick and unbearable. Damon's eyes burned, but he fought the tears. He wanted to scream, to demand why life had stolen his childhood, why he had been lied to. But as he looked at her, frail and trembling, he saw not a liar but a survivor. A mother who had carried her love through decades of pain. He took a shaky step forward. "And last night, I threw you out." His voice cracked, the weight of his cruelty sinking in. Evelyn shook her head softly. "You didn't know, you couldn't have known." For the first time in years, Damon's composure broke. He collapsed into a chair, his hands covering his face. "All this wealth, all this power, and I couldn't even recognize my own mother." Evelyn slowly approached, her heart aching. She wanted to hold him, to comfort him, but she feared he would push her away. Yet when she placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, he didn't resist. Instead, he leaned into her touch, like the little boy she once knew. The storm outside had passed, and sunlight spilled into the mansion. Damon lifted his head, his eyes red but softer than before. "I don't want you to leave," he said, his voice raw. "Not now, not ever again." Evelyn smiled through her tears. "Then I'll stay, son. As long as you'll have me." For the first time in decades, Damon felt something money could never buy. He felt home. That day, the Ashton estate changed. Staff whispered in shock when Damon himself carried Evelyn's suitcase back upstairs. Board meetings were delayed, phone calls ignored. For once, the billionaire who ruled corporations with an iron fist found himself sitting at a kitchen table, listening to the stories of a woman who once sang him to sleep. It wasn't easy. Resentment lingered in Damon's heart, questions without answers. But each day, as Evelyn cooked meals with care and told him about the family he never knew, the walls around him began to crumble. Slowly, the ruthless businessman became a son again. And Evelyn, who had lived her life in shadows, finally stood in the light of the love she had never stopped carrying.